R-vee buyers across America are furious, and for good reason. What looked like a simple sale has exploded into a nationwide fraud investigation. Dealers padded contracts with fake inspection fees, worthless protection plans, and inflated interest rates. Now, those same tactics are being exposed in court filings and refund claims. In the next few minutes, we'll follow the paper trail from showroom to corporate boardroom and show you exactly how to spot and escape the trap before you sign another line. The deal that disappeared. It started with what looked like a dream purchase. An Oregon couple walked into a dealership in early 2024 and found a used Class C R-vee priced at $51,400. They left thinking they had scored a fair deal until the final loan papers arrived. The number had mysteriously jumped to $59,900, nearly $8,500 higher than the sticker. The extra cash was buried inside what the dealer called mandatory prep, inspection, and service protection fees. What seemed like harmless paperwork fine print turned out to be a nationwide pattern. Investigators reviewing public complaints found identical upcharges on dozens of deals, all phrased the same way, all presented as unavoidable. Buyers who refused to pay were told the sale could not process without them. When these receipts surfaced online, the outrage was instant. But once those fee sheets started circulating, investigators realized the wording wasn't random. It was copied directly from a corporate playbook. The anatomy of the add-on. The deeper auditors looked, the clearer the pattern became. Each mandatory fee carried its own story. The so-called dealer prep charge, often $1,000 to $2,000, covered nothing more than washing the R-vee. The inspection fee, around $600, represented tasks already paid for in factory invoices, and the protection packages, often another $2,000 to $3,000, promised coatings and warranties that most buyers never activated. Internal emails obtained from a former employee showed managers instructing staff to present these as fixed charges. In one message, a district sales leader wrote, "All buyers must carry at least one add-on or the deal won't meet margin." That meant every customer entering the showroom was already marked for an upsell. The impact on monthly payments was brutal, stretching $500 installments into nearly $670, all without the buyer realizing it. But if this was standard practice across dealerships, who decided it should be standard in the first place? If you've ever felt dealerships were hiding something, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment if you've spotted hidden fees. Your story might be proof others need. The missing guardrail. For years, the Federal Trade Commission planned to enforce the new CARS rule, requiring full disclosure of every charge on vehicle sales. Yet the recreational vehicle lobby fought back, arguing that R-vees were unique lifestyle products and should be exempt. By the time the rule reached Washington, hearings in late 2023, that exemption had quietly become law. Dealers were now free to list bundled services without itemized cost breakdowns, effectively giving them a green light to invent fees after signatures. Consumer advocates warned this loophole would be catastrophic. Within months, reports of inflated deals tripled, especially in states with heavy retirement buyers. Regulators reviewing complaint data saw clusters. Same phrases, same rounding, same totals. One analyst from the Oregon Department of Justice flagged the repetition and ordered a closer look. What they found inside the dealer files confirmed everyone's worst fear. Those bogus charges weren't accidental oversights, but a deliberate pricing structure. That discovery triggered the first domino, the court case that blew the entire scheme wide open. The Oregon files. When the case reached trial in Salem, the courtroom was packed with retirees clutching contracts and receipts. Each story sounded the same: a promised sale price, a final bill thousands higher, and months of denials when customers demanded explanations. Under oath, a former regional manager admitted the mandatory add-ons were part of a revenue target handed down by corporate leadership. Another witness produced a spreadsheet showing dealership bonuses linked to how many buyers accepted the full package without complaint. The judge called the evidence textbook deception. The verdict forced refunds averaging $4,200 per buyer and opened the floodgates for copycat claims in neighboring states. But the most explosive moment came when internal communications were released. Emails connecting dealership managers directly to national executives who had signed off on the pricing strategy. Those leaked documents proved the scandal didn't stop at the showroom. It began at the top, setting the stage for everything that followed. The finance trap. Behind every inflated R-vee sale was a quiet corner of the dealership known as the finance and insurance desk. This is where deals that looked fair on paper turned toxic in minutes. Buyers walked in expecting to sign routine documents, Instead, finance managers manipulated the interest rate itself. A loan that should have sat at 6.9% was rewritten as 9.4%, with the dealer pocketing the spread. The numbers sound small, but over a 10-year loan on a $39,000 unit, that difference adds nearly $7,000 in pure profit. The markup didn't stop there. Extended service plans were stacked on top of inflated financing, pushing a $39,000 rig toward $46,000 before buyers even noticed. In one email later leaked by an internal whistleblower, a finance manager bragged that customers never catch the math because the monthly payment looks smooth. Those lines would eventually resurface in the court filings that shook the industry. And when investigators followed those emails, they discovered an even uglier truth. The people selling the lies were under orders to do it. The quota culture. Inside the showrooms, pressure wasn't an accident. It was a business model. Every salesperson was told that no deal should leave the building without at least $2,000 in added profit. Commissions were tied directly to upsells, and failure to hit quotas could mean losing weekend shifts or entire territories. For many staff, it became a choice between rent and honesty. They learned to smile while burying hidden charges in contracts, turning routine signatures into quiet betrayals. The culture was ruthless. Employees were expected to memorize objection handling scripts that made resistance sound foolish. When one rookie asked a manager if these tactics were ethical, he was told, "We're not lying, we're optimizing margin." Months later, a leaked training video confirmed everything. It showed senior trainers rehearsing those same lines, coaching salespeople to keep eyes on the monthly, not the total. The clip went viral among employees who had grown tired of pretending this was normal. Once that video surfaced, questions turned upward. Who designed this culture and who profited most from it? The corporate playbook. At the corporate level, the pattern became undeniable. Executives had created an incentive structure that guaranteed deception. They scheduled warranty coverage to expire just as common mechanical issues appeared, forcing customers to pay out of pocket for out-of-scope repairs. They delayed parts shipments and authorized temporary fixes that held long enough to push vehicles past warranty thresholds. Each delay preserved profit and shifted responsibility to the buyer. Public filings showed record-breaking earnings during the same quarter. Complaints skyrocketed. In 2024 alone, the company's gross profit margin rose by 9%, while customer default rates tripled. To investors, this looked like operational genius. To insiders, it looked like moral collapse. When analysts started connecting the dots, stock values faltered, dropping 8% in a single week. Corporate spokespeople blamed market volatility, but the timing was too precise to ignore. The numbers matched the whistleblower leaks almost to the penny. Yet even as profits soared and reputations cracked, one final layer of protection kept the system alive. A wall built from politics and silence. The shield of silence. When the lawsuits began piling up, the industry didn't reform, it regrouped. Lobbyists representing national dealer associations poured millions into campaign donations, targeting lawmakers in states considering stronger consumer protection rules. Policy memos described these moves as education efforts, but the result was simple: stalled regulations and delayed accountability. Every attempt to close the loophole met with letters from industry lawyers warning of economic harm if transparency laws passed. Meanwhile, trade groups flooded local media with opinion pieces claiming consumer misunderstanding was the real problem. Their public relations teams insisted that hidden fees were optional services, misread by emotional buyers. But the spin failed to drown out public anger. By mid-summer, state attorneys general from Oregon, Texas, and Florida were receiving hundreds of letters from outraged owners, many enclosing contracts as proof. What started as scattered frustration was now a coordinated uprising. Those letters didn't just expose a scandal, they forced the first wave of government investigations that would define the next chapter. The family left parked. For Jim and Linda Carver, retirement was supposed to be the reward after 40 years of hard work. They sold their home in Idaho and financed a 2023 fifth wheel for $52,000, confident it would last them a decade of travel. But within 3 months, their dream collapsed. When a slide-out jammed and the roof began leaking, the warranty they had paid nearly $6,000 for was declared non-transferable. Their dealership stopped returning calls. The couple soon learned their loan balance was already $10,000 higher than resale value, leaving them trapped. When journalists reviewed their paperwork, the same service plan language appeared on dozens of other contracts, word for word. Each contained identical disclaimers written to block warranty claims. Those signatures became the first concrete evidence that this deception wasn't random. It was systemic. And while customers struggled with broken rigs, the people inside the dealerships carried their own kind of damage. The employees who knew. Most workers inside the R-vee network weren't villains. They were trapped in silence. Tyler Reed, a service technician in Kansas, recalled being told to just print it and move on whenever customers disputed extra charges. Technicians were ordered to log fewer labor hours than they worked, hiding warranty claims from auditors. Sales managers routinely shredded complaint forms after weekly meetings to keep corporate satisfaction scores spotless. For employees, questioning the process meant risking their jobs, yet guilt spread faster than the profits did. Mechanics compared notes in break rooms and realized their isolated issues were happening everywhere. One senior finance officer finally cracked, sending a spreadsheet of affected vehicle identification numbers, over 600 in total, to investigative reporters. Within days, that list reached regulators. It was no longer about gossip or workplace rumors. The human cost had become measurable. One VIN at a time. The fallout didn't stop at the factory gates. It rippled through the towns that depended on these dealerships. The town that trusted them. In small towns across the Midwest, R-vee dealerships were more than sales lots. They were community anchors. They sponsored little league teams, funded parades, and filled motel rooms during summer rallies. When the scandal hit, all of that vanished almost overnight. By late 2024, the flagship store in Springfield had laid off 30 employees, shuttered its service bay, and canceled the annual R-vee Expo that brought thousands of visitors. The local diner reported weekend sales down by nearly 40%. Business owners described it as watching their town's heart stop beating in slow motion. For years, they had trusted the dealership's handshake culture. Now they whispered about lawsuits and unpaid invoices. One local hardware owner summed it up best: "We built our weekends around them. Now, we're building court cases." Those empty lots became symbols of lost pride and economic pain. And as small businesses struggled, political leaders began circling, eager to turn outrage into headlines and power. If you want real updates before the next scandal hits, subscribe right now. We expose what others won't, because every view, every sub, makes the next truth louder. The political stormfront. By the end of that summer, the R-vee scandal had climbed from local news into the halls of state capitals. Attorneys general from Oregon, Texas, and Florida announced joint investigations citing identical contract language and hidden fee patterns. Insurance companies followed suit, quietly raising premiums for motorhome owners by as much as 8%, arguing the risk of mechanical disputes had materially increased. What began as a consumer scandal was mutating into a national issue of corporate accountability. Legislators saw opportunity. Hearings were drafted, calling executives to testify about how these add-ons had slipped past regulators. Lobbyists scrambled to contain the fallout, but subpoenas were already on their way. In leaked correspondence, one dealership lawyer warned colleagues, "If we open our books, this industry burns." The storm that had started with a single retired couple was now rewriting laws, shaking boardrooms, and preparing the battlefield for the lawsuits that would define the reckoning ahead. Because the next chapter wasn't about stories anymore. It was about justice, refunds, and survival in court. The paper trail to payback. After months of chaos, the path toward justice finally began taking shape. Not in boardrooms, but through paperwork. Thousands of owners learned that the only real weapon against corporate deceit was documentation. Refund requests poured into state agencies armed with photocopies of contracts, loan summaries, and screenshots of dealer websites. Under the Federal Consumer Protection Framework, any buyer misled by undisclosed fees could demand repayment for every fraudulent charge plus interest. The process required patience. Forms filed within 90 days, notarized statements, and confirmation numbers for every step. The first wave of refunds averaged $4,000 each, enough to restore some faith that accountability still existed. Yet dealers quickly pushed back, claiming administrative backlog and missing records. Their delays left owners furious, and law firms smelled opportunity. Class action notices soon appeared online, inviting victims to join what could become the largest collective consumer lawsuit in R-vee history. And as those refund claims multiplied, the legal machinery behind them began shifting into overdrive. The courtroom chain reaction. By spring of 2025, the legal fallout had become impossible to ignore. 27 separate lawsuits stretched across 10 states, collectively demanding more than $42 million in restitution. Each case told the same story: false fees, inflated financing, and a paper trail connecting local managers to national executives. Discovery requests unearthed hundreds of internal emails showing deliberate coordination between corporate accountants and dealership networks. One message, dated March 3, 2023, read bluntly, "If we drop the add-on, margins collapse. Push through objections." Judges overseeing these cases began noticing the overlap. Rather than treating each as isolated fraud, they consolidated them into a single, federal multi-district trial. That decision transformed a string of scattered complaints into a unified front. Suddenly, the same system that once protected dealerships was turning against them. For the first time, executives faced depositions under oath, and the story they told in those rooms would soon reach the public. But while courts prepared for a showdown, the industry itself was fracturing under the weight of exposure. The divide in the industry. Inside the R-vee world, the scandal drew a sharp line between those who built trust and those who broke it. Smaller, family-owned dealers publicly distanced themselves from national chains, branding their operations as no-fee zones. Trade associations splintered as reform-minded members demanded transparency, while others clung to old profit systems. The fracture became visible when 3 states, Oregon, Minnesota, and Arizona, tested out-the-door pricing laws requiring every advertisement to include all taxes and fees up front. Honest dealers embraced the change, calling it good business at last. Behind the scenes, lobbying groups scrambled to repair credibility, funding consumer outreach campaigns and promising voluntary reforms. But their promises carried little weight once the headlines rolled in. Even longtime industry magazines began printing exposés about deceptive practices. The tipping point came when a bipartisan group of senators introduced the Fair Vehicle Pricing Act in Washington, designed to extend full itemization to RVs nationwide. With that bill on the floor and lawsuits mounting, the focus shifted from corporations to the people who still had to navigate the buying landscape ahead. The road ahead. The reckoning changed everything, but it also gave consumers a playbook. Buyers learned to run vehicle identification number checks before signing, verify all fees in writing, and demand plain language contracts. Credit repair services now include free consultations for R-vee victims, while watchdog groups publish monthly dealership reliability rankings. Analysts predict a late-year correction in prices as inventory floods back from repossessions and unsold stock, marking the best opportunity in years for cautious buyers. Experts recommend waiting until early winter, between November and January, when floor plan loans expire and dealers must liquidate. For many, the scandal became both warning and weapon. It proved that a single signature can cost or save thousands, and that silence only feeds corruption. The fight for fair pricing is no longer limited to courtrooms or legislatures. It lives in every handshake and every line of every contract. The next battle isn't about refunds or reform. It's about knowledge. Because the next fight isn't in court. It's in every contract yet to be signed. They sold you freedom, but handed you fine print. What began as a road trip dream became a nationwide warning. And now you know what they hoped you'd never see. The question isn't whether dealerships lied. It's whether we'll keep letting them. Every contract you read, every question you ask, pushes this industry closer to honesty. Stay alert, stay skeptical, and never sign blind again. Subscribe now, because the next scandal is already building, and the next victim doesn't have to be you.